Take us through that process. What was it like was it where you had to reach out to get an endorsement, or did you find that everybody came to you? How much of that was connected to your social media, et cetera? What was the process of getting endorsed like?
So initially, I'll talk about when I first found out about endorsements.
Okay.
When I first found out about endorsements, the first thing that was going through my mind, okay, I want free gear. I'm like, okay, I don't want to have to pay for gear. I'm seeing other drummers, like, drummers who are already well known and in the industry and doing things in the industry. And I'm like, man, I want to be endorsed because it looked good to me. And I was just sending emails, just reaching out to them. Hey, I'm looking to be endorsed, blah blah blah. Not really having anything to show for or having a reason for me being endorsed by these companies. Okay.
So you reached out before you were Jerrod, as we know you now.
I did.
Just go ahead and making it known, hey, I want to be affiliated.
Exactly. Okay. I want to be affiliated. And also too, because, I was like, okay, if I get endorsed, then that's going to give me gigs because it looks good. It's almost like I thought
before the horse almost.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, if I get this endorsement, that's just validation that, hey, I made it. But it's not the case. Right. Once I realized that wasn't working, I'm like, okay, you know what? I had to be real with myself. I'm like, I haven't put in any work. This was before I was like, this was before I was like going as hard as I am at music and in the industry and stuff like that. Right. Like building a social, staying consistent on social media and stuff like that. I'm going to focus on just building my socials and building my brand. And that's what I'm going to focus on. Once I made that decision and I stayed consistent on social media, I'm like, okay, I want to build my brand. Once I got to a certain point, what I noticed was these companies started reaching out to me. Hey man, who is this kid? What is he doing? So they saw the traffic, they saw the numbers on the social media, they saw that I was, doing work, starting to get gigs, starting to, do spot dates and tours and stuff like that. So they decided to reach out.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Musically Hitched. I'm your host, Zach Reynolds Jr. We're here today with a guest who's no stranger to the two. We've got Jerrod, Mr. Jerrod Sullivan in the house. Thank you for coming on Musically Hitched, man. We're glad to have you, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to it, man. We met actually at a gig, typical stuff for musicians, right? You were playing with City Winery here in Atlanta, and I think it was with Marcus Johnson.
Yeah, Marcus Johnson.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember, and that was a tough show, man. There was a lot of musical conversation.
It was, man, going
on that night, and that was a masterful set that you played, and
thank you.
We connected after that, so I'm glad to have you on the show. I know a lot of people know of you and are aware of your story, but I look forward to helping those that don't know you figure out why they need to.
Hey man, I'm glad to share it. I'm glad to share my story, man.
Absolutely. Yes, so you're from Georgia as well, Cartersville,
Georgia,
originally, and a lot of people know you from social media. So we're going to kind of dive right into where we think the most meat will come from, right? Okay. So when you think about your journey on social media, what have you found to be the key to cracking the social media code?
Man, honestly, I wanted to, when I first started on social media, well, not when I first started to realize that, people were starting to follow me, and, I was getting traffic. I wanted to figure out, okay, why are these people following me? What's the thing that I'm doing that they like? And what I found out was they were inspired by the things that they heard. Okay. Because my main content that I post is, drum videos, right, and playing the music. So what I found out was that, somehow the way that I approach music and the way that I play, people are moved by it. So I would say the main thing is with, cracking the code on social media is you want to figure out, what do you do that inspires someone, or what are you doing that, maybe offering knowledge or motivating someone. It's like, right, in order to crack the code on social media, I feel like it has to be something to give people a reason to follow you. They're either getting knowledge, they're being motivated, they're being inspired, or they think you're funny, a comedian. They like to laugh. So I think it definitely has to do with one of those things for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. I heard Pinky Cole. Shout out to Pinky Cole and Slutty Vegan
in
Atlanta.
Yeah,
she actually shared something one time in an interview. Might have been a podcast interview. She was saying that her social media team, they focus on like 3 or 4 things, and I think it was like making people smile, making people laugh. Maybe emotions, or make you cry, and information or like education, just kind of making sure they're informed. Yeah, and that's regardless of what your product or your service is. So
exactly,
it sounds like you've kind of taken like a similar approach to yours.
Absolutely.
So take us on that journey a little bit. So you started on YouTube 2006, and you were relatively unknown right at that point, right?
Absolutely.
Kind of just was this at the house?
At the house, just recording videos. So I started on I started recording with a Sony. It was like a little mini recorder, mini disc recorder. So I just started posting videos with that because I didn't have any mics, I didn't have any recording software, none of that stuff. I just had my drum kit, I had the camcorder, and I had a little boom box that I played music on.
Okay.
So what I would do is I would figure out what song I wanted to play, and put the CD in the boom box, hit play, set the camera right next to the speaker. Yeah. Hit record on the camera and run behind the kit.
What was that troubleshooting like?
Man, it was a lot, man. But I got it done. I may have missed the intro on a few songs, but but I got in the
struggle is real, right?
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, man, that's how it started for me, man. It was just raw, nothing, no editing, none of that stuff. Just like first take or whatever take. That's what you got, but that's where it started for me on YouTube. And like you said, I wasn't known. That was the beginning. Like I didn't grow up in a family of musically inclined people or musicians or anything like that. So it was like the people I knew at church, the musicians that I met at church, that was it. That was all the musicians that I knew. So when I found out about YouTube, I was like, okay, so you mean to tell me I can post videos and other people are going to see it across the world? Yeah. I was like, man, so I need to really, I need to use this as a tool. Lock in and, put the work in and, work on, at the same time, work on my craft, but also just, start to promote my work and post content. So that's what I did. I started posting content back in 2006, and from there, eventually I got called for my, first gig in my hometown locally. And from that point, it was just like a snowball effect. Started networking with more people, met new people at all the other gigs that I did, and that's how it started.
So some people, I'm sure, I mean, at this point, it's still pretty impressive for anybody to amass 10,000 followers on any platform.
It is,
right, and that's a lot of people's attention, like you said. And there's a responsibility that comes with that. So for that person who's just starting out, or is like somebody's been telling, man, you need to start doing more videos. Right. Like, what would you do today? For example, let's say you didn't have the gear that you have, right? Someone right now is maybe where you were when you started back in 2006. Right. What would you do today to go from 0 to 10,000 followers?
Well, I think first you have to have confidence and you have to believe in yourself. I think that's the foundation, because with social media is a tool, but it can also, it also has a negative effect too, because sometimes we find ourselves comparing ourselves to other people and doubting what we have and what we do. But I think if your foundation is strong and you're confident in what you have, and you're passionate about that thing that you do, whether you're a musician, whether you're a content creator, whatever it is that you do, if you believe in what you have, then nothing will stop you from posting that content. Okay. And just taking risks and going for it, and never stopping and never giving up. And I think you have to start somewhere. So whatever resources that you have now, just because you don't have a high quality camera or recording content, or recording software or mics or anything like that, as long as you have the thing that you do and something to record it and something to post content on, I think you should start. Okay. Immediately.
So just get started, and then talk to us about consistency, because you hear about that a lot too. Consistency is the key. Consistency is everything. Right. Does that a philosophy you go by, and if so, what's your consistency?
Absolutely. Look like? I think I think it's two sides to it. So consistency is important, of course, for social media, because of they say the algorithm is always changing, and the more you post, the better. But even aside from that, staying consistent with learning more about your craft. And practicing is very important, because you never want to get to the point to where you feel like you've arrived, you made it, and you just stop. You stop reaching out. You stop learning. You stop trying to gain knowledge. You always want to continue to grow because it's always something out there that you can learn.
Yeah,
and just to get better at your craft. So I think staying consistent with whatever you do, it also builds confidence because the more time you spend, if you're a musician, the more time you spend with your instrument, the better you're going to feel when it's time to actually perform.
Right.
Because you're not going to have any doubt about what you're playing. You
confidence.
know this instrument. You have confidence. So I think consistency is definitely a key on both sides.
Right. But is there a quantity? Do you recommend like a certain amount of posts per day? It's like if someone is like literally trying to make that jump from, like I said, 0 to 10,000. Is there a certain amount of posts per day? Certain time per day?
Honestly, I would say it's for me it's a thin line because you don't want to oversaturate.
Okay.
It's like for me, I only post.
Some people don't believe in that though. They don't think because they're like, I've heard people say you posted it, but nobody saw it.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. So like this is what I do though. So say if there's a week where you're busy, like you may have a job, you may have something that you may have kids. Your time may not be as free to record a bunch of content in 1 week.
Right.
So what you could do is, you go back, I don't know, 3 months, 2 months ago and repost a video or something old that you repurpose it, because at that point you have new followers who haven't seen the content. So I think that's also another thing to help with consistency, because you have a busy week and you don't have time to record new stuff.
Right.
It's like, okay, I have this other video from 2 months ago, and I can repurpose it.
Right.
And people who didn't see it the first time, now they see it. So that also helps with consistency as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so when you look at your current setup now, if you don't mind sharing, what is your current setup? Because we see these amazing videos. The audio sounds fantastic. So what do you use? What's your audio tool of choice? And as far as cameras, some people even want to know about things like that.
Yeah. So as far as the audio, I use Audix mics. And then the interfaces that I use are PreSonus. They're Fire Studio projects. I think it may be discontinued now, but they have a newer model out. But and then the DAW I use is Logic Pro X. That's what I work out of.
Right.
And then as far as the camera gear, I use a Sony A6500 with a 16 millimeter lens. So, and then as far as like a lot of people ask me too about the moving shots. As far as how I get the camera to move in the shot, it's on a slider, and it's by this company called Shanks. So what I'll do is, I just turn the slider on. I control it with my phone, Bluetooth, and just set point A and point B and just hit start. And while I'm playing and recording, it's just going back and forth, kind of hovering. Because what I used to do is, I used to have someone come and record me. Like a handheld camera.
Right.
So, that when you do that, you have to rely on someone else's schedule too. And it's like when you get an idea to record, sometimes as a musician, like you're ready to put it down, you're ready to go. Right. So, but you also have to, if you have someone coming in, you have to base it off of their schedule. So I wanted to, figure out a way to make it look like someone was holding the camera in the video, and that was my solution. Right. Yeah.
So you are an entrepreneur, right? At your core, did you know that about yourself? Like early on, was there any type of indications? Because being a musician, being musically hitched is actually it's one of the most pure forms of entrepreneurship. Right. The musician has to create music, whether you're creating original art or whether you're covering someone else's original art. Right. There still takes the initiative, that discipline, and that skill to provide. We provide a service. That's basically what we do. We're entertainers. So at the core of music is entrepreneurship. When did you know that you were an entrepreneur?
I would say back in 2017, and it was when I started to create clothing, like my brand. Right. It didn't start like God Pocket is my brand now, but it didn't start there. Back in 2017, I had one of my followers. They messaged me and they asked, "Hey, do you have any merch available so I can support?" And at the time, I didn't have any outside of my band, Four Korners. I didn't have any, music of my own. I didn't have any merch for sale. Mm-hmm. So it got me to thinking about different ideas, and I was like, I need to come out with, I need to have something that I can have available for my fans.
So just a random follower, just as like, if you hadn't thought about this, you should, because I'll support.
Yeah.
One person. So one person.
Right. It was most random. Like, I didn't post anything that made them say that or anything.
No clickbait, nothing
that. They just reached out. They were like, hey, do you have any merch? And at the time I didn't. So I started, thinking about ideas. Initially, I thought about, hey, maybe I should just come out with a logo that says Jerrod and put it on a t-shirt. Then I'm like, nah, because me myself, I wouldn't wear a shirt with, just someone's name on it, and that's just me. Yeah. And I was like, okay, if I wouldn't do that, let me figure something else out. What's something that, what's a message that I can put on the shirt that someone else can relate to?
Right.
So I started with this slogan that it was called "Create the Climax," and the meaning behind that was, as drummers and musicians, I believe that it's important, when it's time for you to solo, that you should tell a story and you should build up to the peak and the climax.
Good.
Some people caught on to it, but others, it was something that I had to, explain to them.
Right.
So then, that kind of got me to thinking about, okay, hey, maybe I can create a brand, because initially the idea was to just put something out so my supporters could support my, what I do.
Right.
But after I put that T-shirt out, and it was, and I realized it was something that some people got it, but some people didn't. I was like, okay, let me go back to the drawing board. What's something else that that I believe in as a musician that's universal,
right?
And that other people can relate to. And I just remember as a young drummer and a young musician growing up, what all the older musicians would tell me: stay in the pocket. It's like, hey, pocket gets you paid.
That's right.
If you know how to play pocket and you can hold a groove, then you're gonna get called.
Right.
Like, I was told that all of my years growing up,
right,
in the music. So, and I thought about, I'm like, okay, how can I use a slogan? What's a slogan that I can come up with? So I got the idea, got pocket.
Yeah. And
I called my friend Clarence T. Lee, and I told him that I had this idea, and I was like, hey man, I just came up with the idea, man. Have you seen anybody using this? Got pocket or whatever? He was like, nah man, I've never heard of that. He was like, you need to go for that. Mm-hmm. And I looked on the trademark website.
Yeah.
I was like, man, no one has this. He was like, nah, man. So I was like, okay, I'm about to go for it.
Go ahead and snatch that up real
quick. Let me go ahead and get it up. So I went for it, and I put out 2 shirts. I put out a black shirt and a white shirt. It said "Got Pocket" on it.
Awesome.
And immediately, people hit me up. Hey, what is this? Where can I get one? I want it, because immediately people caught on to it. It was universal.
Yeah.
Everyone knows, what pocket is, and even the people who aren't musicians, who see the logo, they ask me about it. Hey, what does "Got Pocket" mean? Right. And all I say is, if you go to a concert and you're able to enjoy the music, you're able to dance or bob your head, the band's playing in the pocket. I was like, oh, that's cool, I get it.
Yeah, right.
So it's simple. Everybody can relate to it, whether you're a music lover or you're a musician.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. That's the epitome of Musically Hitched. I think that's fantastic. And so now we've gone from one stream of income to 2, right? Because and you have to, was it hard when you first started? I mean, the good news is you had a request.
Right.
You said you made 2 shirts instead of just one.
Right.
So that's resourcefulness, right?
Right.
Trying to get more bang for your buck.
Yep.
Talk to us about that journey. Was it a struggle though? Like to get the clothing line off the ground, like the YouTube thing that took off eventually, but what about this is a totally different beast, right?
So I don't think it was, man, because it's almost as if I was my own influencer. Mm-hmm. Because by this time I had already built up the following. Okay.
The music is creating, yeah.
Exactly. Right. So it's like I'm the driver for the main driver for the band, for the brand. Mm-hmm. So it's like I had to work. It's not easy, of course, but it's like as far as getting the traffic and getting the word out, hey, this is happening.
Right.
It wasn't so hard because all I did was just push my followers to that brand.
Okay.
And it didn't start out as its own thing either. It started out with just a merch. But what I saw something happening though, and I saw people like, representing it as its own thing, and not, some people would see the shirt and not even know that I put it out. And I'm like, maybe I should branch off and let it be its own thing. So that's kind of what I did. And once I did that, it's like hey, this is my brand. Go over here. And people who loved it, people who could relate to it, they just went. They went over there to the brand. So
absolutely,
that's kind of where I started.
Yeah. So in your early stages, are you shipping the shirts yourself and getting them out to people? Or did you actually start? Okay.
Everything, absolutely. Yeah. In the early stages, for sure.
What was the most challenging order that you had to fulfill, like in the early stages? I don't know how you fulfill orders now, but
so what I would do is I would get I had a printing company, so I outsourced. So I went to them and say, hey, I want. Let me get 25 shirts or something like that. And I started with black because black sells the most. So I started with black t-shirts and order of 20. And when someone bought one, I just packaged it up and shipped it. So it wasn't too hard.
Okay.
And also the volume wasn't at an overload status because we were still pushing the brand and still getting the word out about the brand. So it wasn't overwhelming at that point.
Right.
Too much. So yeah, it was humble beginnings, man.
Yeah. But it grew over time. So and now I'm sure you have a system in place. So how does it look differently today than maybe when you first started?
So now I have partners. Okay. I have individuals that help me with the whether it's shipping, whether it's printing, fulfilling orders or responding to emails, anything like that. I pretty much have my own team within my circle. It's definitely people that I know, people that I trust. So they're there to help me. But before, in the beginning, it was
all hands on deck.
All hands on,
or 2 hands on deck. Yours,
that's
right?
it. Mine, and maybe my parents trying to do whatever they could.
That's awesome, right? Well, that's good that they supported you as well, because that's critical to any new business and entrepreneur. Whatever support you can get,
yes, sir.
You need to go for it. But the key is you went for it.
I went for it.
You paid attention to the call, and I've mentioned this I think on the show before, but there was a mentor of mine that challenged me to listen to the phone. So you were playing drums, but somebody asked for a shirt.
Yep.
And so you could have ignored that shirt.
I could have.
And you wouldn't be sitting here at least with that on today, right? Exactly. But at the same time, that's just an extension of who you are.
Absolutely.
And again, that's what we're trying to do is make sure that people understand, okay, there's something in you that needs to come out. And it might be music, but music might also spin you off into something totally different. So let's go back to the basics again. Let's talk about like when you as a drummer, you're known for Pocket. Right? Not just the brand, but like doing it in real life, right? So how do you approach your shows? When an artist calls you, I know that you're working with the legendary Jeffrey Osborne right now. So when that call came in and you were about to play his music for the first time, or they called you for your first show, where did you start? How did you master the show?
So it was crazy, man. The first time that I ever played with Jeffrey, it was we were in Barbados. For Barbados Jazz Fest.
Nice.
Wes Bird called me for that festival.
Okay.
So we were like the house band for like 6 different artists. Jeffrey was one of the artists, and he sent us the music, and my approach to really any situation is I want to serve the music. I want to whatever patterns are going on, whether it's electronics, whether it's acoustic drums. I always want to capture the foundation and the feel and the mood of the music.
Nice.
But in addition to that, somehow incorporate my own stuff, but still serving the music. So that was my approach. I wanted to have the same feel, whether it was tones in the drums or whatever in Jeffrey's music, but also have a youthful approach. And I'm younger, so it's going to have that anyway. But that was my approach. It's like I know it's timeless music, and it's they're hits, and I want to play. I just want to serve the music. Yeah. So that was my approach, and just making the music, making it feel good. So I played the show in Barbados with Jeffrey. He loved the band, and maybe like 2 years, maybe 2 years after that, it was right before the pandemic, right? and he had got my number from West, or may have been a bass player. He had got my number and reached out because he needed a drummer at the time. And literally the day that I was supposed to fly out to do my first official show with Jeffrey, that's when everything shut down.
Oh wow!
Everything. Okay. It was on a Thursday, but everything shut down, and maybe a year later, they had started to pick back up with shows and stuff like that. So he reached out again, and asked was I still interested in doing the gig, and I was like, of course. Yeah. So they flew me out. I rehearsed with them. Met the rest of the band. Everybody's based in LA, so I met the rest of the guys, and he locked in, just played the records, man, and you know, just made it feel good. And of course, you know, I had to figure out, you know, just small nuances that the band was looking for, just to, you know, gel with the rest of the band. Right. And you know, from there it was everything just worked from there. But that's my experience. The initial experience was, I mean, it was great from day one, because like being a kid and just hearing all of these, you know, hearing all those records on the radio, even though I was at an age where I didn't know who he was. Right. It's like I knew the records, I knew the melodies and the, you know, the grooves and stuff like that. So to have the opportunity to, you know, later on in life, back him as a drummer and play all of these records that I heard on the radio as a kid is just, it's amazing to me.
What are some of your favorite records to play from Osborne's catalog? Oh
man, I would say Woo Woo is one. Holding On, that's probably my favorite. Yeah. Holding On. Back in Love. I got a funny story about Back in Love.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Yeah.
So we were in Barbados, right? And we were in sound check, and it was like a rehearsal. We treat sound check as rehearsal, but you know, he came to sound check / rehearsal, and we're playing Back in Love. We're going over it, and we get to the vamp. We just stayed on the vamp for like 15 minutes straight, nonstop. Boom, 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 boom. He's in show mode. Right. So somebody was recording. Was recording the rehearsal. So after we finished, you know, somebody posted it, and I saw it online, and we see Jeffrey. He's in the front, you know, dancing. He turned around looking at us. It got so good to him. He was like, dun, 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 shit. I was like, yeah, we in, bro. We got him. We in. So, man, Jeffrey, since day one, man, he's just been he's probably one of the most genuine artists I've ever worked with, man. Yeah. His entire family. But yeah, that was a funny story that you know, that happened. Yeah. From day one, man, he's just been great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Supporting this podcast is easy. Just hit the subscribe button. See you on the next episode.